61 indicted in Georgia on racketeering charges connected to Stop Cop City movement. I love this stuff. They say 61 people have been indicted in Georgia on racketeering charges. In the sweeping indictment released Tuesday, Republican Attorney General Chris Carr, interesting name, alleged the defendants are militant anarchists who supported a violent movement that prosecutors traced to the widespread 2020 racial justice protests. The August 29 indictment is the latest application of the state's anti-racketeering law, also known as a RICO law, that comes just after Fulton County prosecutor used the statute to charge former President Donald Trump and 18 other defendants. The Stop Cop City effort has gone on for more than 2 years and at times veered into vandalism and violence. Opponents fear the training center will lead to greater militarization of the police and that its construction in an urban forest will exacerbate environmental damage in the poor majority black area. I love that qualifier, that defense of these far left extremists. Let me just pull up their Wikipedia entry on Stop Cop City, and they say domestic terror charges. 20 people in all were hit with these charges going back to January and December. On March 6th, it was reported 23 people had thrown large rocks, bricks, Molotov cocktails, and threw fireworks at police, as well as having set buildings and equipment on fire, had been charged with domestic terrorism. Only 2 of them were from Atlanta. 1 was from France and 1 was from Canada. But thank you, AP, for adding that needless caveat, or not caveat, but a qualifier, that they're worried it will make environmental damage worse in this poor majority black area. This is the issue when it comes to the left, when it comes to the right. Even when you get serious criminal charges, now 81 it appears, the media will do everything to protect them. Take a look at this from NPR. Domestic terrorism charges in Georgia are prompting concern over political repression. And they start the story by saying, when Luke Harper went to Atlanta in early March, he thought he would be staying the weekend. A 27-year-old copywriter for Florida was just going to go there to join a demonstration in opposition to the police. But on a second night, after attending a music festival with other protesters, he was arrested and accused of being a domestic terrorist. Maybe it was like, I don't know, when that dude opened fire on police, I think more than one, and the cops shot back and one of them died, or when they went around burning buildings. But this is what you get. Right now, the other big news, which we'll get into in a second, is that Enrique Tarrio, who was not even at January 6th, has been sentenced to 22 years in prison. And what do you think the media is saying about him?
Well, they're definitely going to call him a domestic terrorist. I mean, the contrast between the treatment of these two groups or two types of people is insane. It's impossible not to see it as inflammatory and an attempt to try and push differences. I mean, yes, the AP has an article up about this, but it's not being picked up the same way. So few people know about what's going on in Georgia. I mean, I honestly think, Tim, you're one of the people who talk about it the most. And that's crazy because it's a year-long, essentially, sit-in protest that has repeatedly come to violence. January 6th, while complicated and obviously made a national impression, was one day and did not cause nearly the destruction that this is happening to Fulton County. So I just don't understand it.
It's interesting. I think, a lot of people are celebrating the indictment, but this came from, I think this indictment is coming from the state level, not from the local level. And it's unsurprising that, the Atlanta area, which is left-leaning Democrat, isn't doing anything for the most part. And it's the state level government. But I'm curious. I don't know exactly where this goes. I will say I am surprised and shocked that any charges came about. But then again, Georgia is a weirdly, I don't how do you describe it? It's a red state, right? Kind of.
It's red, but it has several major Democratic strongholds, and it's
right.
It's a more interesting and demographically complicated state than a lot of red states, which are majority white or something like that. It really is. It makes sense that it's a battleground state because it's in conflict with itself as much as it is with many other parts of the U.S.
I think it's always good to just take it back to the point. These people are going to get maybe a few years behind bars, if that. It's a slap on the wrist, and they're literally committing domestic terrorism. They're treasonous, maybe even. And look at that. They get a few years, but they're trying to lock up Julian Assange for the rest of his life.